Welcome, everybody. I'm Susan Bertram from Materials Marketing. We're one of the largest purveyors and fabricators of natural stone. And today I'm collaborating with Kris and Stockum from Pratt Larson. And we're going to be sharing with you why Materials Marketing and Pratt Larson is the perfect partnership in custom design. So I'm Susan, like I said, and I'm the account manager for Materials Marketing, and I work out of our Chicago, Illinois showroom. And Kris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Kris Van Stockum. I am the East Coast Regional Sales Rep for Pratt Larson. If you're not familiar with Pratt Larson, I think you'll get a good sense of who we are this morning, and thanks for joining us.
So to start out with Materials Marketing, we've been in business since 1965, and we quarry and fabricate our own stone. So the images that you're seeing here is you're actually seeing a stone quarry with the blocks that we cut out of the earth, and then we take them to our fabricating and manufacturing facilities and fabricate that stone into fireplace surrounds, columns, corbels, stone tile flooring. Kind of, if you can imagine it out of stone, we can fabricate it for you. We are the oldest and largest fully integrated manufacturer. So we own the quarries, we own our fabrication, and then we ship it directly to your job site. So what you're seeing in these images is down here in the left corner is actually one of our carvers out of Mexico. It's one of his carving boxes that he works from, and you're seeing how we hand carve our tools. So you're seeing like a column of a fireplace here, and actually one of the carvers there. So we get our stone direct from our own quarries or a couple of curated sites. We have about 30 different stone colors, which you're seeing just a sampling here, and we fabricate that stone in about 11 different finishes. So you're seeing a honed finish here. You're seeing an antico finish, which is basically sandblasting. You're seeing a French quarter here where we sandblast the stone and then we hand chip it. And you're seeing, you know, on this stone, a little bit tinier chip. So again, we've got 30 different stones that can be finished in about 11 custom finishes. And for many who maybe are familiar with Materials Marketing, we're very well known for our fireplace surrounds, but we also do all of the exterior stone for both residential and commercial. And so you're seeing here, we recently were awarded some awards for residential design as well as commercial design. So the lower left corner is a very large estate in Virginia, and the upper right-hand corner are a set of row houses in downtown Chicago. I'll turn it over to Kris.
Yeah, so a little bit about Pratt Larson. Pratt Larson is a handmade ceramic tile company. We're headquartered in Portland, Oregon. That's where all of our product is made. If you ever have the chance to go to Portland, we'd love to show you around if things are back to normal. But when you visit our factory, it's really not like being at a factory. You feel like you're in an artist's studio loft. So yeah, Pratt Larson was founded by Michael Pratt and Rita Larson. I think there's a photo of them in the next slide. So yeah, I wanted, that comes in another slide. I'm going to just take you on a quick little tour of our factory. Since we can't be there in person, this is the next best thing. So this is some of our raw clay being processed. And it gets cut into a shape. You can see our cutters here. And that wet clay gets stacked and gets fired in what we call a bisque firing. So it goes from the wet clay to hard clay. And it's come out of the bisque firing, and now it's ready for glazing. These are some of our glazes. We'll learn more about our glazing process, but we make all of our glazes by hand. And here those glazed tiles get loaded again for another firing. One of the things that Pratt Larson is known for is hand painting. You can see one of our artists hand painting tile. This is another hand painting technique. And after our product gets fired, it all gets laid out and inspected and goes through quality control before it's packed up and shipped out to you. So Pratt Larson was founded by Michael Pratt and Rita Larson. They're a couple textile artists and potter, and they combined those two sensibilities and brought that to tile making. Pratt Larson was founded in 1982, and then about 3 years ago, they sold the company to two long-term employees who have taken over the company. What I love about that, they have a vision for where the company has been, and then also a vision of where they'd like to take it. So there's some history involved there. And we use about 2 million pounds of clay a year, and all of that clay is made to our specifications by a local clay maker called Georgie Ceramics. We use a pug mill and extruder that extrudes ribbons of that wet clay, and that becomes the field tile. I think one of the things that sets Pratt Larson apart from other handmade tile companies, we make everything to order. So when we get a purchase order, we literally are rolling out that clay and cutting it and glazing it to order. So you are getting exactly what you want because it's made to order. We have a lot of different shapes and sizes. If you visit our website, there's a PDF on our website that shows all of our shapes and sizes that are available. This slide just gives you a smattering of what we have to offer. From squares and rectangles, starting at a 1/2 by 1/2 all the way up to a 6 by 12, and then a lot of different shapes from pickets and fans and hexagons, different sizes of hexagons, octagons, you name it, we probably have that shape. And if we don't, we can make the shape for you. And I mentioned earlier when we were watching the video, we make all of our glazes in-house. We don't go to the glaze store and buy glaze. We actually have a team that formulates all of our glazes in-house. Glaze making is not like making paint. All of our glazes have some variation to them. In that previous slide, you saw the glazes that actually get sprayed on by hand. That's what creates some of the variation that Pratt Larson is known for. And I often say that our tile, the variation that you experience in our tile is similar to that of stone, which is why I think this is such a great partnership with materials marketing. When you look at stone, not two pieces are never exactly the same. I think the same can be said of Pratt Larson tile. No two pieces are ever exactly the same, but when you step back and look at an overall color tone, they all blend together. Same thing with natural stone. We've got about 300 different glazes in our collection. When you visit a materials marketing showroom, you're not going to see all 300 glazes. We've edited those glazes so that our showrooms, our dealer partners like materials marketing are showing the best of the best and the best selling glaze colors.
Kris, that was a really good transition into why materials marketing and Pratt Larson is a perfect partnership. I think as one of the points on this slide is that we both have a very natural look to it and variation, and that's where a lot of the beauty comes in. But for materials marketing, we like collaborating with people like Pratt Larson because we want to provide a one-stop experience for our clients, because we know that not everything in your home or in your commercial project is going to be stone. It's going to be a combination of things, and we want to be one of the one-stop shop for you. We both make our products in America, and we have similar customer profiles. Our clients are looking for unique, customizable, custom finishes for their spaces.
Yeah, and similarly, I think we both as companies provide high quality customer service. Pratt Larson is known in the industry as having the highest level of customer service. And I think when you work with materials marketing, you can come to expect working with a trained, qualified salesperson to walk you through every step of the process. And the other thing that we both share as companies are similar principles and values, and that our goal is to make sure that the end user is satisfied with the product and it fits their needs.
Absolutely, in complete agreement. So now we're going to go through just a couple of installation images that show and showcase how materials marketing product is used with Pratt Larson. So in this slide, in this kitchen installation, you're seeing our bone travertine on the floor. That can be done in a variety of different finishes, and it can be done in a variety of different shapes.
And on the backsplash, this is one of our small pickets, but kind of laid out in a random fashion with a mixture of 3 different glazes. And if you look closely at that inset photo, you can see that there's variation within those colors, but when that's put together and worked together with natural stone, the result is pretty spectacular.
In this next kitchen installation on the floor, again, you are seeing our Avalon gray floor tiles, and again, it can come in many different finishes and many different shapes.
Yeah, and on the backsplash, that's our elongated hex with a gray glaze. Quite a bit of variation to this glaze, and just as a little side note, for us, the color gray is a difficult color in ceramic tile making. There's an element that goes into making gray glazes that is heat sensitive, and it can be pretty tricky for us. So just in general, our gray glazes can always have quite a bit of variation to them. The other note about our glazes, they're not limited to wall use. Many of our glazes can be used on the floor. We actually have a usage chart on our website, so that's a quick, easy reference if you're not sure of where our glazes can be used. We do have a usage chart that will kind of be the go-to answer on that.
Great. So in this kitchen installation, you're seeing our latte travertine on the floor again, and that can be done in a Versailles pattern, which I think is what is on that screen there. And again, it can be done in many different finishes and styles, and you could also mix our stones together to give kind of that variety.
And on the backsplash, that pattern is from our motif series, and motif uses a raised line to create the pattern. And in that video, you saw one of our artists using an air pen to fill in each little individual area of the tile by hand. That's the same technique that was used here. We have a palette of 36 colors to choose from for this technique. So you could totally change up the look of that tile depending on the colors that are selected and where those colors are placed. So just like everything else with Pratt Larson, a lot of customization is possible with our motif tile.
So in this presentation, you're seeing our Moderno tile here on the floor, and it's in big hexagon patterns. So we have the capability to do just about any size you want depending on the stone. So that's one advantage to us, that if you want to get a really customized look, instead of having a standard 3x6, you could do a 2x9 or an 11x14 to get that really kind of custom, unique look.
And on the backsplash and the installation photo, that's our facet shape with a mixture, I think, of 4 different glazes. You know, this is where you can rely on the expertise of a materials marketing salesperson. You know, combining the scale of the material on the floor with the scale that's on the backsplash is something that a salesperson, materials marketing, can certainly walk you through. They're really well trained in materials and color and scale. And I think this is a great example of mixing a larger scale tile on the floor, something a little bit smaller backsplash. And in the inset photo, that's actually the very same shape, but just with a different mixture of colors. So you can see, you can make that tile really bold and punchy like we see in the installation photo. You can keep it more subtle and subdued like we see in that inset photo. Even using one color would, again, dramatically change that, make it a lot more subtle.
Yeah, I think that's all beautiful. In the next slide, you are seeing actually one of our kitchen hoods. So the surround down here around the range is all of our Rivera beige limestone.
Yeah, and on the backsplash, that's just a white glossy glaze. And what I find interesting, we can, just like materials marketing, can customize sizing. That arched molding that goes above the cooktop, that's something that we can do. If we're provided a template, we can curve our moldings to fit the arch. But I think this is a good example of keeping it subtle. So there's a field tile, there's that arched molding to frame out the area above the cooktop, and then inside that arched area is a herringbone pattern, but all the same glaze color, so it keeps it a little bit more toned down, and then the emphasis really is more stone.
One thing, you know, this range hood is pretty traditional in nature, but we can also do very contemporary range hoods. So if you can think about it or you have an inspirational image, we can typically create it for you. In this image, you're seeing on the floor here above this gold, below this gold tub is our vintage vein cut material. I believe that that's just straight planks that's on the floor, but in this small image here, I'm showing that we can do it in a chevron pattern. We could do it in a herringbone pattern, any shape you'd like.
And on the material on the tub surround walls, it's one of our glazes called R-Gloss. So we've got 5 different series of glazes. Our R-Gloss series is probably our biggest series of glazes. These are more opaque glazes, or I should say semi-translucent. That would be a better way of saying it. A little bit of variation. You can see that in this photo. We also offer a series called watercolor glaze, which we'll see in some other photos. Those are more transparent and fluid. We have a series called Craftsman, which are fashioned after the American historical art tile movement and have quite a bit of variation to them. We have a series called Parchment, which tend to be more matte and flat. And then we have a series called Satin, which is semi-translucent, not as glossy as our gloss glazes, but not as flat as our matte glazes. So we have 5 different series of glazes, lots of colors and offerings within each of those glaze families.
In this slide on the floor, you're seeing our cameo white that has some subtle dark streaks through it. We have 5 different white marbles that you can choose from, ranging from Danby to Statuario, Cameo, and Carrara.
And on the walls, I know it's hard to see in this photo, it's again a glossy white glaze from our Art Gloss series in a chevron pattern. We offer 4 different surfaces that we can put our glazes on, and this photo is showing a surface called Portland, which is literally the back side of the tile, and it gives almost a Zalège kind of look. The edge of that tile cups up a little bit. It's a very flat look. I think it's beautiful. You can get a very tight grout joint when using that Portland surface.
In this scene, you're seeing our Seville travertine, a 24 by 24 hone tiles and 4 by 24 backsplash, and also a custom home slab. We do very small slab work because we buy our stone in the blocks like you saw in the original screenshots, as opposed to buying them in the traditional slab format.
And on the wall, that's a 2 by 8 field tile with a watercolor glaze. You can see some of that fluidness or that transparency in the glaze. I mentioned earlier that we offer 4 different surfaces on which we can put our glazes. Down at the bottom in the inset, the two photos on the right, the middle and that deep teal, show one of our textures, and we consider a texture a surface. So you're able to add a texture, and we offer 11 different textures that we can put on any of our field tile. This really adds a little bit of character, it adds some depth, particularly when used with the watercolor glaze. Those textures tend to add like almost another layer and look very fluid.
In this slide, you're seeing the Seville travertine and some molding. So there's Seville travertine on this tub deck and tiles. You're seeing and then you're seeing our molding here. So we can do custom moldings. We have some standard moldings like our MO 705, but if you have a custom profile that you want to match maybe the woodwork in the home, we're able to do custom stone moldings for you.
And on the tub splash, you can see a Pratt Larson mosaic. We've combined a few different glazes. Looks like satin and watercolor glazes have been combined randomly. We have a lot of different mosaic pattern offerings. The wonderful thing about Pratt Larson is you can specify as many glazes as you want on a sheet of mosaic. There's no additional charge for that. If you want those colors laid out in a specific pattern, like you see down in the lower left with the star and the cross, or near the top where the dark brown has been laid in, you can specify where you want those colors put. We'll do that for you at no additional charge. So it's a great way to customize a mosaic, but without a customized price.
I think this is one of the most a really great example of how it's great to mix materials together. Because I love our molding and I love our Seville on the tub deck. I think that having the different texture and the glazes from Pratt & Larson makes this so much more interesting than if it were just solid, just more Seville mosaics here. I think it adds a lot of interest. So one of the reasons I like collaborating with Pratt & Larson. On this slide, on the floor here, you're seeing our Montclair floor tiles and, our Montclair floor tiles, and they're running on a diagonal.
And on the walls, it's this material is called Sgraffito. We have a series called Sgraffito, which look like pen and ink drawings. We've taken that look of a pen and ink drawing and translated it to ceramic tile. So we actually press that pattern down into the clay. It's a very shallow impression. If you ran your hand across a Sgraffito tile, you could feel that very light impression. And what's interesting, we can put a single glaze color on Sgraffito and it's beautiful. Or we have a technique called polywash, which is what you see here in the installation photo, where we put an accent glaze down in those low areas of the tile, and we put a shiny glaze on top, and you get a two-tone effect. It really emphasizes the pattern. It's just depending on the glaze that's used, but polywash definitely emphasizes the pattern.
In this slide, you're seeing our Carrara herringbone on the floor, and that herringbone can be done in any of our stones, but it also can be done in any size. So like right now, I'm working with a designer who's customizing that size so that it's not just the same size as you're going to go get at a more common tile place. And it's going to help him make it look a little bit more custom. And there's not an upcharge for that. Since we fabricate our own stone, it's priced per the square foot, regardless really of the size of the material.
And on the walls in that installation photo, that's our large pit, again on that Portland surface, which is the back side of the tile. We've used one of our gloss glazes, which is a more opaque glossy glaze. It's hard to see in that photo, but that Portland surface definitely catches the edge of, the light catches on the edge of the tile. That darker blue that you see as an inset photo, that's one of our Craftsman glazes. And then down on the right, you can see that same large picket, but laid out more randomly. So same shape, different glazes, completely different looks. And this is where a salesperson from materials marketing can really guide you in terms of scale and correct glaze and variation, and really help you, walk you through in terms of knowing what to expect.
So Kris, I have a question. When you do the tiles different like this, do they come separate and individual, or do they come meshed?
They come separate just because of the size. Those are rather big. I know it's hard to tell in the photo, but the size on that picket is about 5 inches wide and about 10 inches tall, which is too big to mesh. So anything 3 inches or smaller, we can mount into a mosaic, but anything bigger, it's that's something that the installer gets to do on site.
Okay. Well, and another interesting idea is, you know, depending on the thickness of this tile, in concept, you could mix some of the tiles with stone shapes. So we could create stone shapes that you could intermix with there if you were looking to do a really customized sort of mosaic type of pattern.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Susan. All of our material is 3/8 thick. And I think a lot of your stone is 3/8. So to mix the two I love that idea. I love mixing those two different surfaces and two different textures.
In this slide, you're seeing, again, our Montclair on the floor. That Montclair is one of our white marbles. It tends to be a little bit more black and white than like a Danby that has warmer colors in it. And again, this can be done in any size and shape.
And on the wainscot, this is a newer collection for us called Inline. Inline is a 3x6 tile, and that line is lightly incised into the tile. There are 12 different patterns in the collection. And in the installation photo on the left, we've mixed all 12 patterns together, and it's crazy and wild and beautiful. And you can see on the right, down at the lower bottom, those are 2 patterns mixed together with a watercolor glaze. So you can make this a little more subtle. You can make it crazy, just depending on the glaze that you choose and the patterns. I think what's really interesting about inline, a lot of these lines will connect with each other from tile to tile. You can see that up in the inset photo, there's that darker blue, that smoky blue. That's the same pattern, just that tile is turned 2 different directions, and you can see how those lines connect up and form an even bigger pattern. I think inline is one of these tiles you can have so much fun with this. I love, in the installation photo, I love the pairing with Montclair. I think it's absolutely dramatic and striking.
Well, it's like putting together the puzzle pieces,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you want it to
Yeah.
go? And as designers or homeowners or the creators of your own space, you're able to be very creative and create a really unique space for yourself. In this photo, you are seeing one of our fireplace surrounds. Here, this is our fireplace number 301, and it's in Rivera Beige. And it's also highlighting the fact that we can do indoor fireplaces, outdoor fireplaces, and we could do a fireplace surround like this in any one of our 30+ stones.
And just right around the firebox opening is one of our mosaics. People ask me all the time, can your mosaic or your material be used on a firebox opening? Absolutely. Most of our tile gets fired at around 2,000 degrees, so it can withstand the heat that's generated from a firebox opening. So absolutely, our material can be used on a firebox surround.
Sorry, here's our last one. So this is another materials marketing fireplace surround in our Rivera Beige. You can see that this is a much more contemporary design than the previous outdoor fireplace. So if you can imagine a fireplace surround, we could build it for you. I've had clients come in and they've seen an image of a very old world antique, you know, from some French castle, you know, in France, and we have been able to reproduce that in our French quarter finish, which is sandblasted and chipped edges. it can make a brand new fireplace look worn and look like it's been there for a long time.
And on that back wall, this is one of our newest collections called Highline, which, similar to motif that we saw in a previous slide, a raised line creates the pattern. But with our Highline series, when multiple pieces are put together, it creates an even bigger pattern, almost like wallpaper. So we're seeing it in a single color on that back wall, but on that lower right-hand photo, that inset photo, you can see it done with multiple colors. So we've got 8 new patterns in our Highline collection. I'm so excited about this collection. I love it. It's fabulous. It's great with either a single color. It's great when those individual areas get filled in with color. We call that technique color fill. If you visit your local materials marketing showroom, you can see the full color palette that's available for color fill. You can see examples of different Highline tiles.
Yeah, coincidentally, we did just yesterday receive all of our new boards of materials marketing. I can't really see it necessarily behind me, but I put them up behind me in my desk. They're beautiful boards, so we'd love to help you. So that's it for our slides. We really appreciate you joining us.